Hey guys, welcome back to the 10th video in our 3D Racer video tutorial. Here at the beginning, I'm going to show you really quick that I spent some time um, putting colliders around my entire map. I kept finding that the enemy AI was not working very well with the trees, and if I was racing, my car would hit it and cause it to spin out pretty easily. So I did decide to go ahead and take the time and put all these colliders out. It didn't take me as long as I thought. I maybe spent 15 minutes doing that. And when I finished, it looked a lot like this. I had probably a total of 40 different walls. And when I was done, I selected all of them, and turned off the mesh renderer. This also helped for me as the player to have something to bounce off. When I was done, I tested it with my enemy car, making it around the track. And some things I noticed was keeping it close to the side of the track was actually pretty helpful. Um, and because the trees sort of spawned right along the edge several times, and make sure I had no edges sticking out of a corner. If I ever had a gap, I would have something like what you're seeing here, where the enemy car could like catch in the middle of that gap. So eventually I would move that wall forward and then close that gap out. So I would suggest you go and add some colliders yourself and take the time to do that. Now for the next part of our video. We're going to be doing a main menu and a track selection screen. So let's go ahead and take our first track here in our scenes view. And we're going to basically rename these to kind of be sort of in a sequential order. This might change over time, but I like to start off with a numbering convention. So I'm going to take track 01, control right click on it, and rename it. And I'm going to have a main menu and a track selection screen, and then it's going to go into this screen. So this will be starting with 0, 1, 2. This will be 0, 2 underscore track 0, 1, and I'll reload the scene. So that way I'll have a naming convention here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new scene inside my projects folder, and I'll call it 00 underscore main menu. And I'll go ahead and create the next one too, which will be 01 underscore track select, like that. So I have 0, 1, 2. And let me go ahead and open up this new scene. When you first come into it, make sure you go to your game window and make sure it's 16 by 9 because we've been working on a canvas for this. So the things that we're going to want to have on this screen is a title, a play button, a track select button, and a quit button that we'll eventually have when we have our build our game out. So I might just go ahead and sketch that out by creating a UI text mesh pro, which should already be loaded in your game, and I'll call this one title, and go to my scene view, snap to 2D, and double click on my canvas to get it right in the right position. So title, for me, I'm going to put it sort of off on the left hand side. Yeah, I like that. I'll hold down Option and snap it over like that. Using my move tool, I'll get it off the wall just a little bit. Make sure you use the anchoring in order to reposition it. Not just drag it around, but use the anchors so that it never, it doesn't want to automatically snap back to that original spot. And I'll give it the name of title right now. This is just so we can work and have a general idea of where you want to put everything. As a child of the canvas, I'm going to also create another. I'm going to create a button, Text Mesh Pro, and I will call this my play button. I'll hit Command D twice. One of them is going to be our track select button, and then the last one will be our quit. And I want to update the text on those to reflect that. So let's take the play button and make it say play. track select, say track select, and then the quit button, say quit. There you go. So I should just go ahead and take them and kind of position them. So I'm going to put my play button right here, track select button. Make sure you're grabbing the parent object, not the text object by itself, and move it right below like this. And I'm going to put my quit button all the way down in the bottom of the screen, something like that. So we can customize these a few different ways. The first way, I'm going to go ahead and save, by the way. Oh, you know what? Let's make sure our canvas is not set to constant pixel size, but scale with screen size. There you go. I should do that first every time, and I'm going to save that. I have a package for you, so I'm going to go Window, Package Manager, and let it pull that up. And I think if you just type in, make sure it says My Assets. If you type in Racing, there's one called Racing UI. Import. Mine's already downloaded, so I'm just going to import that one into the scene. It's not as useful as I hoped. I spent a little money on it, not too much, like 15 bucks. More than I probably should have. But that's what happened. So Area 3730 is the name of the folder by itself. But I'm going to go ahead and just make a new folder outside of it called UI to contain all my UI stuff, and then drag this into here. And inside of it has Racing UI. As the sliced, that's the ones that we want, PNG, and it has them sort of already laid out. So individual numbers, and we can go back and switch in our 1, 2, 3 in our normal game scene. But the thing I liked, there was like a little button. There's a buttons and others. Still not as much as I'd like here. I was grumbling about this. There was a play. Maybe icon buttons. There you go. I like this play button here instead of the word play as such. So I'm going to go onto this play button and control right click and create as a child of it just a raw image. And that raw image, I'm just going to call it play icon. I'm going to hide the text, disable that, and take play icon, go ahead and scale that a little bit. Well, actually, so this button here, let's go ahead and take it and change its texture type to a sprite 2D and hit apply. Now we can, on our play icon, and drag that into there. It looks like our opacity is kind of low. Alright, we'll figure that out in just a second. So I'm going to scale that. Oops, not that way. On the Y and on the Z. Oh, that's rotation. Scale right about there. Make sure it sort of fits. I guess the actual image itself is pretty see-through now that I'm looking at it. I think they do it as a transparency. Well, see, actually, I don't want this one then. I guess that's just got like a fade to it. I guess for an animation. So I'm going to take this one and change that to a sprite instead. I don't know. I mean, I had to do it anyways. So you can kind of choose between the two, which one you like more. So play icon. Let me drag this. That looks fine for me. Sure. But they don't have like, a font thing set up for us already. So I'm going to go back to assets, and I have a link for you for defont.com. And this is the one I thought was the closest to the font that a racing game might have. So you can download this. Once you have it, drag it onto your desktop and Going to open that up. You get a new folder. And inside that folder, there's a couple different ones. You might have the straight, so the one that's unitalicized. And I think the normal one is italicized. So, I think in TextMesh Pro, you already have a fonts folder. So Assets, TextMesh Pro Fonts. And I'm going to drag in the one that's italicized, this one right here, Corporation Games, and just drag it into here. Oh, make sure I grab it. And then let go. And I have to build a TextMesh Pro font atlas for this. So I'm going to go up to Window, TextMesh Pro, Font Asset Creator, and drag in that font. Hit Generate Font Atlas, and this will allow TextMesh Pro to see this. I'll hit Save, and it should already be in the fonts folder, so I'll just hit Save there, and you'll see this new icon here. And I really like that. So on my track select, I'm going to change my font here to Corporation Text, and that looks good. I might just go to auto size and see if I can just get to fill in here. I think that looks fine. And then let's do the same thing with our quit button, changing this here, and I'll do auto size as well. So those buttons look fine for what we're doing. If you want to make it so that whenever you hover over them or you click them, there's a couple ways to change this up, some animation, basic kind of things. So let's say on our play button, we scroll down on button, you already have a transition for color tinting. So if I want it whenever I highlight it to be a different color, say I want it to be red, then when I press it I want it to be like a blue, I can just preset those here. And let's press play and test that out real quick. So when I hover over it, it turns red. When I click it, it turns blue. So I think for this home screen, that's fine to just do these highlighted color kind of things. You can play whatever colors you want. I'm going to stick with this for just right now. And I'll go back and do the same really quickly for my other buttons. Just get something. If you want to get the exact same colors every time, you have a hexadecimal number here that you can just copy and paste onto the next one. So press the button here, and I'll just paste in that hexadecimal, and they'll give me the exact color. I'm not going to be totally exact for the sake of this here. So for this scene, I'm going to go ahead and put my title in, and I'm going to just kind of use the same font. We could put an image in if you decide to make another. I'm going to save real quick. Let me get my card. I've been calling this 3D Eraser, so I'm just going to call it that. Just because I don't want to think through it. 3 is looking kind of weird, right? Is that an A? No, that's a 3. Oh, just because I have that line there. 3D. Go to the next line. Racer. And I'm going to auto size that, but what I'm going to do is just stretch this out and make it much bigger using my scaling tool, which is T on the keyboard. I should make it a lot larger. I might even just put my title here in the corner. Kind of like that. Let me anchor that down to the bottom. That's just where I kind of like it. Might make it a little bit wider here. Auto sizing, so unless we go up to 72, I can increase that max to something like that. That looks okay. So that 3D Eraser is kind of getting lost a little bit in the window. So, as an option, I can scroll down, and underneath the material here, you can play. You have alignment up here underneath it, but you have an outline. I'm just going to crease it and give it a black outline so it stands out a little bit. And then these letters are kind of hard to see, so I might go with a white lettering. So right, that is the canvas render. There's the text. Oh, I'm on the wrong object. I need to be on that. Switch that to white. And if I don't want to do have my buttons like where I can see the actual render, I can just click here and turn that off. So I just have it without. But I think the buttons add a lot to it. So let me turn that image back on. But you can also try to play with the opacity, make it a little bit more see-through. Maybe gray it out a little bit so it looks more like just a highlight kind of thing. I kind of like that too. That looks pretty good to me. A little more opacity through here. And I'll do the same thing with my quit button, reducing opacity to about half, and then taking my text, which is a child of it, and making it white with that black outline. And yeah, I think that looks good. Might need to match the opacity here. So 157 on this one, 157. For some reason, that's a little bit more white than the other one. Oh, did I kind of grade it? That's right. There it is. Looks pretty good. All right, so I did want to kind of have an animation or something in the background of my game view, so it's just not like this skybox. And my cheating way of doing so was I went back. I'm going to once again save, go to my scenes, go to my track, and I get out of 2D mode. And I just took my track, so Terrain Manager, and I just drug it down into my project area and made it into a prefab. Then I went back into scenes, go back to my main menu, hit save, snap back to 2D, right? Okay. And then drag in this to the hierarchy and see what it looks like in game view. So I just basically use the terrain I built on one of my levels as my background. So I'm gonna just hide this over here, take my terrain manager and move it. I thought about trying to add a rotate script so like the world would rotate behind it, but the terrain doesn't really work that way. Like it doesn't rotate like that as easily as you would like. So I just kind of cheated by putting this into the background and then adding in a skybox, which we have. Where did I put those skyboxes? I think I put them in textures. Classic skybox. Yeah. So I can just drag it into the scene view here. I'll go with a brighter one since it's the opening level. Something like that. There you go. So we have like a basic menu screen. Let's go back to scenes. Let's open up our second scene, our track select scene. I just want to build it out briefly. In order so we can have our SceneManager script work the way we want it to. So camera's 16:9. Going to add a UI text, which will automatically add this canvas. And this is going to be, the title of this one is going to be track select title. And I'm just making it say track select. And I want this to be anchored in the top center. Once again, this is all your preference, like that. Changing my font, boom. I want this on one line, so let me go step to 2D. Scoot this over. Now I'll reassign that to be the center. That looks okay. And I need to have we're going to have a couple different buttons here. For now, we're just going to have our first track as an option. We're going to add other ones in here. And we also want to have a main menu button. So let's go ahead, as a child of the canvas, add another UI button, Text Mesh Pro. And this one will be our main menu button. Main menu. And the text on it should say main menu. And that looks pretty big, actually. It's a huge button. So I'm going to scale the whole button down a little bit. That just looks really big to me. All right, I'm going to take the whole button using W, and I'm going to move it up right here so that once you're on the screen, change the text to change your font. Sorry, here. Oh, don't like that. Let's change the color to white. Kind of do like I did with the other ones, where I took the image on the button, made it, I think it was like 157, right? And made it a little more gray. That looks good. Okay, and the last thing I want to add in is another button as a child of the canvas. And this one is going to be a little bit different. We're going to call this track 101. And I decided to change my image for this one. Inside of that folder, we downloaded UI, Area 730, UX and UI, sliced PNG. Was it icons? Level choosing? Yeah, level choosing. I kind of liked like one of these, like background final. I'm going to change that to a sprite 2D and apply. And I want to make that the image on my button. So here. And I'm going to play with, I'm going to take the text out for a second and just play with the scaling of this, because the Y needs to be taller. Maybe even like 3. That looks fine. If I move it over here, maybe move it down some, change my anchoring. Actually change that first, that would be helpful. Then move it down a little bit. Right about there, because I'm going to put a thing underneath it. I want to take the text of the button, put it back on, but move it right here and move it down below. So we have the name of our track just sitting right below. And mine, I just called something like Autumn Valley. Same thing, changing our font to be white. And I'm going to give it a black outline. That black doesn't look too great because of how small it is. And then for this, I want to add an image to this button. So I'm going to save. Maybe just go back to, so go to my scenes folder and go take a picture of something inside of that track. Snap out of 2D. My fogging is very intense. Take Q. Maybe come in like somewhere right here. Option. If you're gonna take a photo like this, let me get on my game view so I have a little more. You might see on your terrain like these grid bars. One thing you can do is at the top you have a little grid sign here. It can change the opacity temporarily just to kind of block that out. Try not to get the canvas in the view. So I might just take a picture like this. Command Shift 4, little screenshot, and then go back to my track select, go into my UI folder, and I'm just going to put it in here. So I have my picture I just took on my desktop. Click on it, change it to be a sprite 2D, hit apply, and now on my canvas, snap to 2D. As a child, child of this button, I'm going to control right click, add a UI raw image. And yeah, that one's huge. Let me just take that, scale it down. I'm going to try to make it fit. All right, and drag in my picture as a like that. So I think I have like a preview of what my scene might look like. Ooh. Did I make my canvas scale with screen size? No! Okay, make sure you do that. Oh, that's always why the button was so big. Okay, not a huge deal. I told myself just last video, I was like, hey, earlier in the other menu. All right, I'm gonna take this, move it down. Take my menu. I might move it up. I might even make track select even bigger. Size that. I like it being a little bit bolder, and then making sure that it is option click in the right slot, move it down just a tad, and then taking this and maybe scaling the whole thing. Yeah, you have to go back in and kind of play with the positioning of everything. Take that raw image and make it a little bit larger. Sorry about that. All right. I goofed. For all intents and purposes, this is fine. Okay. And you could do the same thing with your backdrop. Might maybe take another, drop in another, that prefab. Snap out of 2D. Take this, move it, try to find a spot that looks a little bit different than what you had last time. Rotate the whole thing. Yeah, so you can see rotating, it just rotates along that axis, but it doesn't. Set this back to 0. Let me try to find another view like that. That looks pretty good. And then throw in my skybox. Okay. Now, before we move on from this scene, I do want to change the animation on this. My track 01, I want it to bounce. So instead of doing color temp, I'm going to change on button transition to animation. And right now, I'm going to hit auto generate animation. And it's going to save my assets folder. I'm going to expand that. I actually want that to be an animation. I'm going to create a new folder called button anims, and I will just call this track select anims. Hit save. So if I take my animation window, so window, animation, animation, I have mine dragged down here, and you have that button selected, you'll now see that you have different animations already pre-built. So when it's highlighted, let's say you want it to move up and down, you just hit record. I start by moving it just a little bit, so it's just that first keyframe, like that. And then I would say like 40 seconds in, have it reach like a position like that. And then I'm going to copy, Command C, that first one and put it there at 1 minute. So what you should see, if I stop recording and press play, if I hover over it, it should bounce up and down. And then let's say if I select it, let's do something different. Let's have it get a little bit smaller. So I'm going to hit record. I'm going to add property here, and I can just take the, let's say, rectangle transform and change its scale. So hit the plus symbol here. So here's its normal size. By the time it gets, that says it's set for a minute, but I'm going to say I want it to go really quick. I want it to just scale down. So here, let's say we scale down the X to like 0.5. That's too much. 0.75. Change the Y. Let's go down by another 25% as well. So like 2 point, sorry, but yeah, 75. And Z doesn't really matter for what we're doing. So if I stop pressing play, if I test that out, it'll all be like this sort of click thing. Maybe that's a little too fast. I might try to go to 30 seconds. What does that look like? Yeah. I think I did it backwards. But either way, you understand the premise of that. Now, one thing you do want to make sure you fix is go back to your project. Wherever you stored that, the animation folder, you have a new folder button, anims. If you click here, you get all of them laid out. Make sure that they're not set to loop time. So turn off that. Press turn off loop time. So Command S, let's test this out. So if I highlight it, I get the bouncing motion. If I click it, I guess that is looping. Selected. Selected was the one. I think I gave it the selected animation there. Maybe I meant to put it as pressed. But either way, that will stop that looping. Okay, so the meat and potatoes of this, very simple script. We need to go back. Sorry about that yawn. Save. Go into scenes. Let's go to our first one. Let's start here. Scripts. And I'm going to make a new script. Now, I'm going to call it SceneManager Script. I can't just call it SceneManager because there already exists an accessor called that. So I need to add the word script at the very end. All right, open that up. And since we are using scene management, line 4, using Unity. Oops. Engine. Scene management. We're not going to use any of the boilerplate, so delete that. And we're just going to make a bunch of methods to take us to different scenes. We've done scene changes a lot of different ways. This will be fine because this game won't have all tons of scenes. This is fine. So public void. And let's just call one for our main menu. And we just want to tell the scene manager to .load a scene, and we want to give it the index number that it's going to have. This will have an index number of 0. And there you go. Let's do our next one. Public void. And let's call this one track. Select. And this will be the same thing. So this will have, it's in an array, so it'll be the second one, so it has the number value of 1. Public, I don't know why I capitalized that. Void, track 01. And just copy, paste that in here, and that'll be array value number 2. So save that. Go back into Unity, give it a chance to compile. Not a whole lot there, so it shouldn't take too long. Of course, we need to put these scenes into our build, so file, build settings. I'm going to add this with array value of 1. Let's find my scenes folder. Open that up. And then drag 01 in here. And 02. There you go. Easy. Click X. In each of these scenes, you are going to have to create an empty object called SceneManager. But we're going to just do it by prefabbing. You might need to make a prefab folder. But SceneManager, so create an empty called SceneManager, add a component called SceneManager Script. Save that. Drag down here. For now, I'll clean this up next video. Go to your next scene. Track 01. Save. SceneManager in. Save. And your next scene. Actually, we're not putting anything in this scene, are we? Okay. I'm going back to my first one. On the play button, it's going to be pretty simple, right? I'm going to scroll down, on click. We want to reference our SceneManager object. Then the function is referencing the script. And we want to, let's for now, let's just have it go straight to 0, 1. So that's our quick start. Then go to the track select button. Same thing. SceneManager. Drop in. And we want to call the track select function. Save that. Go to track 0, 1. Go to your main menu button. On click. SceneManager. Adding in for our this was our main menu button. Sorry, yeah, main menu. I got distracted for a quick second there. Save, and then finally track 0, 1. Add in SceneManager here and track 0, 1. Save that. I want to go back to my main menu and test all this out. We are going to add some, like, if you want, we'll probably do it later on, add in some transitions like fades and clicks. We definitely want those. But I'm not going to do that in this video. This video is getting kind of long. We will get to that pretty soon. So press play. Looks good. Clicks. Goes right into this. Oh, lighting. We'll fix lighting too. Let me try this again. Let me try my track select button. We haven't set up our quit button. We will set that up once we get our build done. Here we go. Looks good. All right, great. Well, guys, on this, we're done with this video. Next video, I'll probably just do the lighting with you. I'll take a note to do that. We'll probably do a mini map as well and build our second track, so we have more than one track to reference. Then after that, we'll start maybe putting in some other cars and cleaning up our UI a little bit, and then work on a way to unlock cars and or tracks.